When you see something online, but you're not sure if you should try it or give it a go for you, that's what I'm willing to do. It's a game, it's a book, it's something you should cook. I'll be your faithful minion, give you a second opinion.
What's up, gamers? And other people, maybe? And what's up, Daemonic? Who is Daemonic, you might ask? I'm sure he asks himself that every night in the mirror before he goes to bed. Well, Daemonic is the reason we're all here right now. He's a priest in hardcore on Doomhow. He's a rogue and my loot master in Season of Discovery on Chaos Bolt.
Ancient Helm, Paladin Hunter.
He's a voice in my head.
Oh shit.
But most importantly, he's a bro that I share my gaming life with on a week-to-week basis. And one of my favorite ways to connect with another human being is through food. Which reminds me of a poem that I just wrote. Just like two lovers can gaze upon the same moon, two gamers can slay the same Cthulhu. A recipe taken, a recipe bared. No distance will matter with experience shared. Now, Daemonic's extended family is ancestrally Swedish. And that's why today, among other things, we are making some Swedish meatballs. But where did it all begin? It began in the mid-1800s. The first heavy peaks of Swedish immigration occurred in 1868 and 1869. Nice. Crop failures in Sweden and opportunities in the US pushed hundreds of thousands of Swedes to migrate across the Atlantic. By 1923, the immigration of Swedes into the United States had nearly stopped, but by then the damage was done. Minnesota was rife with them and their descendants. Did you know that to this day, 7% of Minnesota's population is of Swedish ancestry? If this bottle of Santa Cruz organic lime juice were Minnesota, this much juice would be Swedish. Now that's a lot of Swedes. Although Day wouldn't give me the recipe from his family, the next logical place to find Swedish meatballs would of course be Ikea. But unfortunately they said I had to assemble it myself, so I decided against that as well. Luckily I found a recipe that Day signed off on, and so that's what we're going to be making right now. One pound ground pork, 1 pound ground beef. Of course, Dave's recipe has me knuckle deep in 2 pounds of his meat. Chili meats, mix that meat up. I tried to get Dave's Mill's family recipe, but he wouldn't give it to me. Oh, what's a mill? A mill is like a MILF, but you definitely want to drop the F. Alright, add our onions, 2 tablespoons parsley. It hasn't managed to freeze yet where I am, which is crazy for January, but it's meant that I still have a little bit of yard parsley here. Our assortment of spices, oil, and panko, and 2 eggs. Now, if it wasn't messy before, it's time to get messy. Get in there real deep. Wow, 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 wow. I find that the perfect length of time to mix up your meat is as long as it takes you to sing the amount of Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On that you can remember. Let's love, baby. And now we turn this giant hunk of meat into tiny little balls. Now you want to make the balls sized identically, but my left one has always been a little bit bigger than my right one, so I don't know how realistic that is. Is it getting hot in here? Or is it just these balls? I gotta add a few of my own extra things to make this a full meal, so we'll be cooking with some red cabbage, with a little bit of apple, and some garlic mashed potatoes, as well as my favorite brand of sauerkraut. And finally, one more product to cut through all of the delicious meaty flavors, the Swedish favorite wild lingonberry sauce. These balls wouldn't be Swedish without a little lingonberry jam. One of my favorite parts about this recipe is that it uses allspice and nutmeg. I'm always looking for recipes that use allspice because I get to use it so infrequently in my day-to-day cooking. Well, I think it's finally time to eat, so let's get this all plated up and let's go talk to Daemonic himself about things. Alright, so why are we here? We're here to enjoy some food, well, for me to enjoy some food, and to talk to Daemonic here. One of the best rogues on Chaos Bolt.
One of 3.
And our loot master. This all got started because I wanted to experience food from your culture. So your extended family is Swedish, is that correct?
No. It's funny. I'm just a complete mutt like most of America. But my in-laws, they're both second generation Swedish. So they both they hold tight to the traditions and foods of Sweden. And they did a pretty good job transferring that to my wife. But we have done a terrible job transferring that to our kids.
They don't like the balls? Or they get to eat the food but not prepare it?
No, they won't eat it. They think it all looks gross.
What? I tried to recreate what I thought maybe a nice Christmas dinner plate would look like. What are your side dishes?
So we eat lefse, which is kind of almost like a tortilla. Lutefisk and potato and sauerkraut.
Nice, got the sauerkraut. Sick.
It's actually a lot of white foods. now that I'm thinking about
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Are you seeing this? Like how washed out this is?
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of stuff grows super well. So it's a lot of jarred and canned and cured and smoked meats.
I mean, I've eaten a meatball before. I think everybody's probably had a meatball. And this is pretty good gravy. But this is what you really introduced me to. Is I'd never eaten this before until you mentioned it. So the lingonberry, this is sauce. But any sort of lingonberry jam. Do you have this on the reg? Or is it really just with the balls?
It's pretty much only when we visit the in-laws, and they serve it when they make the balls, but also any type of blood-based foods. It goes really well with that, and then any type of liver-based foods. It seems to be with those 3 categories.
Liver. So you eat like liver and onions, or something prepared with liver?
Yeah, prepared. Like sometimes, I don't know what it is. Like they blitz it up and it becomes like a paste, and they mix it into things. It's really strange, if I'm being honest.
Who cooks in your household when it's not the mother-in-law cooking?
So I do all the cooking.
Nice.
And I do all the dishes, but I don't do any of the laundry. So I think that's a pretty sweet deal, actually.
Yeah, I would take that any day. You ever made this, or is this just the in-laws that you ever have this?
I've made it, but it doesn't turn out the same. Like, it's just not as good, and I don't know why. And I think maybe I don't know. Like, when somebody makes food for you, it just feels that much better. I don't know, I love it.
And could you let everybody know why you wouldn't give me her recipe? Did you say Britta?
Yes. Yes, Britta's recipe. It's because I had called her with a question the previous day. And if I didn't ask for the recipe, she'd be like, oh, so you're making them. And then she'd want photos, and, it's just too much.
Since you are the cook in the house, what's your favorite thing to make?
A thing that is pretty simple and gets a lot of praise around here is making a pan-seared pork tenderloin with a side of broccoli or Brussels sprouts. And then I make a pan sauce from the fond. And so the family loves that pan sauce that I usually make. So that's pretty much a huge winner. But when it comes to the kids, they want ribeye steak. Which, is you just put salt and meat in a pan.
All right, so we're gamers. We met in game. We met in World of Warcraft. Do you have a story or remember the first time I came across your path?
I do. I do remember, and it's one I haven't talked to you about. It's because I remembered it just the other day. You were in a different guild than I was, and my guild was struggling heavily in Sunken Temple. And I think the season was about to end. I think season three is that what it was called? Yeah, it was about to end, and you logged in to drop a Sunken Temple buff for us because we had never killed Hakar, and we never killed Aranicus. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm gonna ask this guy to play with us because we need help. So you dropped the buff, you hearthed, and you immediately logged out before I could even ask you, will you come?
I remember that. I remember that now. I actually forgot I did that. I remember messaging Sarge in Discord and just saying, hey, is this something you guys would like? I think Elite had fallen apart basically by then. We'd cleared Sunken Temple enough times that everybody was kind of over it. I think the first time I remember thinking about you was I brought an alt with your raid because I wanted to test out Shakaden, and which didn't work at all in phase 3. But I remember seeing you and Urson at the top of the meters and being very intimidated the whole time. And I was doing absolute dog crap DPS on my like alt Shakaden, and I would have kept raiding if I wasn't so embarrassed.
Oh no! You should have stayed. We had nobody to raid with.
What is your favorite game of all time?
There's a handful of indie games that have really inspired me to continue playing indie games. And I found that I almost prefer them to the AAA games at this point. And those 4 would be Hollow Knight, Hades, Celeste, and Slay the Spire. And then beyond that, I do enjoy World of Warcraft. It's a really fun game. And of those 4, I would probably say Hollow Knight is my favorite.
All right, what is the first game you remember playing and really loving?
Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo.
Nice.
I was absolutely hooked. I remember stealing my mom's camera and photographing a time trial score that I took and waiting for that film to get developed so I could send it to Nintendo Power.
Nice. Dude, that totally jogs my memory. So you would beat a game? Do you remember when this was a thing? You'd beat a game and then take a picture of the like end game screen, and that was something somehow? And you could send it in somewhere?
Totally. And they would publish it. However, my time wasn't good enough.
Oh. Yeah. We kind of just normal folks.
With the bubble CRT, it would look like shit.
Yeah, and then you had it developed. What does that mean? What does that mean? What did you have to used to do with film before smartphones?
Oh man, this is like the Wild West. You had to take it out of the camera and very carefully put it into one of those black canisters. Do you remember that? And you'd put the little top on.
The gray top, black canister, gray top.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you'd have to protect it from sunlight, otherwise you'd ruin all of the pictures you've taken. You'd go to the local drugstore because they usually have the printing facility.
Yes.
And it would take days. It would take days. But then they did eventually come out with 1 hour photo developing, and I remember thinking, this is the future.
The 1 hour Photoshop. That's right. I think my local one was called Green Frog, and it had a big giant frog with a crown. And
that's where mom and dad got their stuff.
That's where you went if you wanted your pictures developed. Green Frog. So we both play SOD and Hardcore together, and separately, I guess. But are there any other games you're currently playing and really loving right now?
Yeah, beyond World of Warcraft, I'm playing Balatro, which is a deck building roguelike game. It's really fun. It's addicting because you see number go up, and it's just very satisfying to see number go up.
See number go up. Nice. Balatro. That's not the card game you were talking about the other day. Like,
It is the card game.
But-
It's like it's poker, but it's really not about poker. It's about building your deck.
do you play cards? Real cards?
I do when I can get my kids to play.
What do you play?
They like Uno. They like Uno, and every once in a while I get them to play a board game called The Search for Planet 9. I think it's
Ooh.
called. It's really fun. It's a game where it's kind of like euchre, or you have to take tricks. It's a trick-taking game,
Euchre.
but you have to take certain cards from the trick, and you cannot communicate with your teammates, and that's what makes it kind of fun.
It's good talking to you, dude. I appreciate you giving me your lunch break. And I'll see you at Raid, probably.
Take care.
Later, dude. If you stuck with me this far, well, God bless you. I really appreciate it. If you want to support my channel, hit me with a like, subscribe, and a comment. Good or bad. I really appreciate anybody that watches. I also stream on Twitch, links to that in my YouTube channel. So if you have any interest in games or cooking, I will see you in the next one.